all in, you've got the app, the spreadsheet, and then a few weeks later, it just completely falls apart? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to get into the real reasons so many of us struggle with this. And here's a little secret. It has almost nothing to do with your willpower. Let's dig in. You know this screen, right? It's that feeling of a fresh start. You set the rules, you feel totally in control. And for a little while, it's great. It works. But then life happens. An unexpected bill, a dinner with friends, and poof, you're right back where you started. The really frustrating part is that we don't just fail once. We get caught in this endless cycle, trying the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result. So what is this cycle? Well, we're calling it the budgeting failure loop. And the most important thing to get your head around, the whole point of this explainer really, is that this is a design problem. It's not a personal failure. It is not you. And this right here, this is the result of that flawed design. We see it everywhere. There are thousands of apps, and yet study after study shows that most people just give up on their budget within a few months. This gap you see between what we plan to spend and what we actually spend isn't a sign that we're irresponsible. It's a symptom that the whole approach is broken from the start. Okay, so what's really going on here? Well, it comes down to a huge misunderstanding at the very heart of the problem. We're told over and over that budgeting is a test of our discipline, right? A test of our willpower. But the reality? Budgeting isn't a personality trait. It's a system. And think about it. When a system consistently fails, you don't keep blaming the user. You have to fix the system. There's this core idea in systems thinking that's so powerful, and it's this. Our behavior follows the systems we're in. The outcomes we get are almost always a direct result of the structures we operate within. And honestly, budgeting might be the most perfect, everyday example of a flawed system that leads directly to a failed outcome. All right, so let's pull this thing apart. Let's deconstruct exactly why this system breaks down, piece by piece. This is kind of the aha moment, where you're going to see the mechanics of that failure loop in action. So what does this loop actually look like in the real world? It's a surprisingly predictable chain reaction, and it all starts with the one thing every traditional budget is built on. It all begins with restriction. See, traditional budgets assume your life is going to be neat and tidy. Predictable income, predictable expenses. But real life is messy. It's chaotic. So when an unexpected cost pops up, that budget stops feeling like a helpful tool and starts to feel more like a straitjacket. And this feeling of being restricted, of being trapped, it doesn't just feel bad. It actively creates psychological stress. All of a sudden, every single time you have to spend money, it's a source of anxiety. Can I buy this? Should I go out? That constant mental math is absolutely exhausting. And we know exactly what chronic stress does to our brains, right? It tanks our ability to make good, rational, long-term decisions. When we're stressed out, we are way more likely to do something impulsive just to get a little bit of relief. That one, I deserve this purchase, that's not a failure of character. It's a completely predictable brain response to a system that's causing you stress. And here it is. The final domino. Once you make that one impulsive decision, the whole plan just feels broken. The guilt kicks in, and it's so easy to think, well, I've already blown it, so what's the point anymore? One tiny crack is all it takes for the entire system to collapse. And then you abandon it completely until, a few months later when you decide to try again. So why is the system so fragile? Why does it fall apart so easily? It's because the entire foundation of traditional budgeting is built on a complete myth, a really, really flawed assumption about how we humans actually work. And here's that myth, right here. Budgeting is designed as if our self-control is some kind of infinite resource we can just draw on whenever we want. But literally all of modern psychology shows this isn't true. Self-control is a finite resource. It's like a muscle, and it gets tired the more you use it. I mean, just think about your average day. You're dealing with the cognitive load from your job, uncertainty about the future, you're emotionally tired from dealing with people, and you were just bombarded with a million tiny decisions. Every single one of these things drains that self-control battery. So a system that demands you have a full battery 24/7, well, that's a system that's just designed to fail. Okay, so if the old system is fundamentally broken, what does a better one actually look like? This is where we pivot from the problem to the solution. Because effective financial systems, they don't start with tracking every single penny. They start by building a much smarter structure. A smarter system focuses on these 4 layers, and in this order, before you ever even think about tracking an expense. First, you just understand your income structure. Then, you lock in and automate your fixed costs, your bills, and most importantly, paying yourself first through savings. Then, you build in what's called decision friction. You make it really easy to do the right thing and a little harder to do the wrong thing. And finally, you use automation to take yourself out of the picture as much as possible, which removes the need to constantly make those draining decisions. Now, this is where modern tools, things like AI, can actually be super helpful, but probably not in the way that you're thinking. The real purpose of a smart financial tool isn't to be a digital drill sergeant that yells at you for buying a latte. No, its job is to support the system by reducing the total number of decisions you have to make in the first place. Let me put it this way. Every single decision you have to make is a potential failure point. It's a moment where your limited self-control could just run out. So by automating your savings, your bill payments, your investments, you are literally eliminating dozens of these failure points from your life every single month. It makes your whole system stronger, more resilient, and way less dependent on how you happen to be feeling on a Tuesday afternoon. So if you only take one single thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this. Budgeting doesn't fail because we're all bad with money. It fails because it takes a complex, dynamic, messy system, your life, and tries to force it into a static, rigid plan. A well-designed structure will always beat sheer discipline. This channel explains money, artificial intelligence, and decision-making as interconnected systems. No hype, no gurus, no personal branding. New videos weekly.